This is going to be an important video for folks who live in Portland, Oregon, especially if you care about what is happening at the ICE facility on Macadam Avenue. And more than that, it's for anybody who cares about the costs that the city of Portland is incurring around the ICE facility, if you care about the watershed and protecting our environment, if you care about the health of the people who live in that neighborhood. This will also be an important video for anybody else who is worried about what ICE is doing in their neighborhood. I know with all of the other things in the headlines, you may have missed that there was some really important news coming out of Southern California on September 11th. I know I missed it until somebody alerted me in the comments, so thank you for giving me a heads up. The ACLU of Southern California had a press release on September 11th, but it got buried with everything else happening in the news that day. So a judge in California has issued a preliminary injunction in a case that's quite important and highly relevant to what's going on here in Portland. Now, my understanding is the ruling does not extend up to us here in Oregon. It's really important because the question is, should we have something similar happening up here in our courts? So the case was the Los Angeles Press Club versus Kristi Noem and DHS, ICE, etc., etc. According to the ACLU of Southern California, a week ago today, a federal district court issued a preliminary injunction blocking the Department of Homeland Security, which includes ICE and Customs and Border Patrol, from brutalizing journalists, legal observers, and protesters. In the 45-page opinion, Judge Vera of the Central District Court of California determined that the record includes detailed and credible declarations from nearly 50 journalists, legal observers, and protesters, which showed DHS retaliation against people for protesting against and reporting on the violent immigration raids in Southern California. The judge said, under the guise of protecting the public, federal agents have endangered large numbers of peaceful protesters, legal observers, and journalists, as well as the public that relies on them to hold their government accountable. The First Amendment demands better. So first off, great for Southern California. Absolutely fantastic. Good. Rule of law continuing to hold. Courts are doing their thing. But this is where I want Portlanders to listen. Among other actions, the preliminary injunction prohibits the Department of Homeland Security and its agents from dispersing, threatening, or assaulting the press or legal observers unless they have probable cause to believe an individual has committed a crime. And that crime must be unrelated to failing to obey a dispersal order. This part here. It bans DHS agents from using chemical, projectile, and auditory weapons against members of the press, legal observers, and protesters who pose no threat of imminent harm, either to law enforcement or to another person. Keep listening, keep listening. It also prohibits Department of Homeland Security agents from firing tear gas canisters or auditory weapons so as to strike any person. It prohibits DHS agents from firing weapons at the head, neck, groin, spine, or other sensitive areas unless that person poses an immediate threat of death or bodily injury. So night after night after night, we are seeing at the ICE facility on Macadam Avenue that unarmed protesters who are exercising their First Amendment right are having chemical weapons, including projectiles, being used on them by DHS agents. I mean, again, presumably these guys are masked. They don't identify themselves. They often don't say what agency they work for, but they are operating in full body armor, tactical gear, out of an ICE facility. We have seen story after story after story of people who are down there to exercise their First Amendment right to protest and are being hit with tear gas canisters and other weapons. On purpose, ICE is aiming at people. We absolutely have seen people who've been hit in the head, neck, groin, and other sensitive areas. When they are unarmed, they absolutely are not posing any immediate threat of death or bodily injury. They're just like yelling or like quoting scripture or waving a sign. According to court documents in this case in California, DHS agents fired tear gas grenades at people directly, shot people in the head and body with projectile weapons. We had a gentleman here in Portland who was shot in the eye. They smashed the hands of people who were recording events on their phone. They brandished guns at people who were engaged in lawful First Amendment activities. There have been reports that at the Macadam facility here in Portland, that people who are unarmed and are exercising their First Amendment rights are having weapons with potentially live ammunition pointed at them. According to court documents for this case in Southern California, DHS's actions have caused serious injuries such as burns, hematomas, wounds, concussions, memory lapses, and brain contusions. So this injunction applies to the counties of Los Angeles, Orange, Riverside, San Bernardino, San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, and Ventura. And it protects journalists, legal observers, and nonviolent protesters. Again, I am not an attorney at all, but I care very much about our immigrants here in Oregon. I care very much about what's happening to the folks who are protesting down at the ICE facility, and also to the residents of that neighborhood who are having their homes basically be gassed on a nightly basis. I care very much about the watershed that is being contaminated. Now, we know the city of Portland is incurring large amounts of, expenses. They are having to spend a lot of money trying to capture and clean up all of the runoff, because tear gas, green gas, other undetermined chemical agents that are being used, it's chemical warfare, devastating for people's bodies and for the environment. And our taxpayer dollars are being spent to clean up DHS's mess. I just really wanted to put a heads up out there. If you didn't know about the ruling in this case, if you are involved with the protests here in Portland, if you care about what ICE is doing in that neighborhood, if you care what ICE is doing in this state, or if you live somewhere else where you are having a similar experience of ICE using chemical agents against peaceful protesters, of aiming for people's bodies with those canisters, shooting people in the eye, head, spine, groin. If you live somewhere where journalists and legal observers are being targeted by ICE, this case is important. I would suggest that you reach out to your city attorney, that you reach out to your local ACLU chapter, that you reach out to the Attorney General for your state. If you are a member of the press or a legal observer or part of a protest group who is experiencing this kind of treatment, I suggest that maybe you seek legal counsel to see if you could get a remedy the same way folks in California have gotten a remedy. Whether a preliminary injunction might be possible, either here in Portland or wherever you are.